Hello, my name is Mike and I'm going to be talking to you about the writing section of your B2 Third Tackless exam. I'm going to be giving you firstly some general tips and then I will be looking at each part a little bit in more detail. So firstly, this slide shows you what you should be able to do and also what the corrector is looking for in order to give you a good mark in your exam written answer. The self-assessment at the top, it specifies that you can write clear, detailed text on a wide range of subjects related to my interests. You can see that it is always connected to your interest. It should be nothing abstract, nothing outside your range of knowledge. But the text should be clear, it should be easy to read. A lot of it is connected to the organization, which we will look at in a little bit, and it should be detailed. This is a B2 level. It should not be simple constructions. It should be a little bit more complex. And there is a wide range of subjects, but they are always, as I said, related to your field of knowledge. It says I can write an essay or report. These are two examples of the pieces of writing you may get. There are others. But the important bit is that you pass on information or give reasons in support of or against a particular point of view. A typical subject is an essay, and when you have to argue for or against a point of view. The important information to take into account here is that you have to give reasons. It seems like an obvious thing to say, but do not say simply, do not give an opinion without backing it up with reasons. That's good for all the types of writing we're going to be looking at. The other paragraph is what the examiner with the corrector is looking for. It is a CEFR descriptor. This is from the Common European Framework of Reference. So they are looking for, and you can see there are similarities, clear and detailed, which is the same as a self-assessment, very important, a variety of subjects related to his or her field of interest. So this is the same as before. Synthesizing and evaluating. So you will have information from a number of sources, as it said, and you have to summarize it and put it together in your own words. That's another important thing to bear in mind, but I will be repeating that. And you have to evaluate or assess information and arguments. Give your opinion, backing up with reasons and arguments. Okay. If we look now at the exam, this is like the format. You would have two tasks to do, okay? You would have 70 minutes in which to do them, all right? So you have to bear that in mind. Timing is, of course, essential. You have 35 minutes and 35 minutes, and you have to take this into account, okay? I will be repeating this, but bear this in mind. You have to write two pieces of writing in 70 minutes, okay? And they have to be on the answer sheet. You cannot have them on the rough piece of paper. It's very important. Okay, that's very important to bear in mind. The number of words. Here I've given you a range because the actual number of words may vary a little bit within those parameters. But the parameters will be these. Per task, it will be between 125 and 250 words. And in total, between 300 and 450. As I said, sometimes depending on where you take it, in which university, the range may vary a little, but it will always be within those parameters. Okay, the task types we're going to be looking at in a little bit. You have an essay, an opinion essay, a review, an article or a blog, a report, and a formal or informal letter. These are the possible task types that you may have. Okay, but as I said, we will be looking at those in a little bit. Okay, what are you being evaluated on? The different criteria. You can see this is task achievement, organization and layout, grammatical range and accuracy, and lexical range and accuracy. Okay? The task achievement is, have I done what the question asks me to do? If it asks me to explain, or to explain, to give justifications, to suggest, have I done everything? Have I written the correct number of words? Have I explained everything? You should put yourself in the place of the reader. If I read this, will I understand and will I be able to apply it to the question? So have I done what the question has asked me? The second one is organization and layout. Very, very important. You have to bear in mind that if somebody is correcting your exam, they do not want just a block of words. Okay, so organization, paragraphs, clear paragraphs, indented. The layout, okay, again, this will come up again on each individual piece of writing, but introduction, main body of writing, and the conclusion. It's the classic layout. It's not a good idea to try anything too original in an exam. Okay, the idea is to pass, so make it clear and easy to read. The more you do that, the better mark you will get, the easier it will be for the examiner to give you a good mark. The last two you can see are grammar and lexical. Grammar is, of course, and range and accuracy. So you're taking a B2 exam, so you should not limit yourself to B1 grammar and think, okay, I will do this, very simple, past simple, present perfect, I know this. So because you could have it all very correct and not get a good mark. So you have to try to use B2 types of grammar. Use conditionals, use passives, try to demonstrate that you know B2 grammar. Of course, you have to be as accurate as possible, but you're going to make mistakes. We all make mistakes. The important thing is to try. So in the writing part, as in the speaking, you should try to demonstrate what you know. And then the last one, the lexical range and accuracy, it's the same advice, but in terms of vocabulary and expressions. Okay, you should not simply limit yourself to simple vocabulary. You should try something which is B2, something which is a little more complicated. Okay, as accurate as possible. Try to make sure your spelling is okay. Be careful with double letters, etc., etc. But you have to try and demonstrate what you know. An important thing to bear in mind. General tips, planning. Okay, planning is always useful. I probably won't repeat this in each piece of writing, but remember this, for each piece of writing you should plan. If a person plans, the writing is always more coherent. You can tell if the person has planned or not. You should not spend any more than really 5 or 6 minutes on this, but at least write down what you want to include in the introduction, in the main body, and in the conclusion. And it's probably a good advice to include, maybe to think of the linkers, the connectors you want to include in each paragraph. If I'm contrasting, however, although, despite, if I'm adding, then in addition, furthermore. Okay, try to think of linkers. We like linkers. You have to use linkers. You will get better marks if you use linkers. But I repeat, planning is necessary, okay, for every piece of writing. In the question, there will be keywords. Again, when we look at the individual questions, we will look at the keywords. But you have to, good advice, to underline them so you don't miss any part of the question out. Okay, if you have to do 3 things, then you have to do those 3 things equally. All right, if you do 2 and then you do 1 very, very quickly with less detail and fewer words, you will get lower marks because you have to treat all 3, if there are 3, equally. So do not miss out any part of the question. Structure. Structured answers. Examiners look for structured answers. Clearly structured answers. I mentioned this before and I'll mention it again. Make it organized. Use linkers. Try to demonstrate there is a flow from beginning to end. The introduction, the main body, and the conclusion. Okay? There has to be a flow. It has to be coherent. Okay? To make it easy to read. So the structure and the organization is very important. The opening. Begin to answer the question immediately. Okay, don't in the opening paragraph, don't waste words. Begin to answer the question immediately. Do not waste words, okay? And the last one, the conclusion, do not merely repeat what you've just said. A conclusion should not add anything new. It should summarize or paraphrase what you have said in the rest of the writing. But paraphrase is the important word. Do not simply repeat it. Try to find a different way of saying the same thing. But I repeat, do not add anything new in the conclusion. It should simply be a paraphrasing of what you have said before. Okay? And lastly, important tips. As I said before, do not write it out twice. I've seen many times people who try to write out the piece of writing in rough, and then they don't have enough time to write it out neatly before the end of the exam. And it will not be corrected. So the idea is write it out on the answer sheet. If you make a mistake, cross it out and continue. It doesn't matter. Okay, it doesn't matter as long as it's legible. So be careful of your timing. Do not write it out twice, which connects to the second point, of course, manage your time properly. Again, many times you see somebody, if you have 70 minutes, that 40, 45 minutes, they're finishing the first piece of writing. No, be aware of the time. You have 70 minutes to do everything, so don't spend too long on the first piece of writing. Good advice to leave time to review tenses, spelling, repetitions, etc. If you can, wonderful. Try to leave time to have a look, to try to correct any basic mistakes, things you can avoid. There are some mistakes which cannot be avoided. You've tried something, you've made a mistake. If you've tried something a little more complex, that's good. The spelling and repetitions, please try to bear in mind that they should be as correct as possible. Be tidy. As I said, you should not use, for example, Tipex, but cross it out clearly and continue, but be legible, okay? Because somebody has to read a lot of these types of writings. And, okay, the last one, use a pen. It seems a bit ridiculous. It's very clearly expressed on the piece of paper, and in the exam room, the examiner will tell you, but it's not the first time that, sometimes you see people who are writing in pencil and they don't have time, and it's a pity. So use a pen, okay? Thank you for your attention.